Hi, Mermaid Junkies. How are you? Okay, so I said that I was going to do a video which is titled How to Unhook Our Desires to Dig Up Our Soulmate or Our Partner's Past. And the reason, of course, that I'm doing this video is because so many times it's life experience that teaches us. And so when I have these kind of issues, I also think that you guys may have these as well. You may have these particular circumstances that happen to you, and so I thought let's dive into it and try and figure out how that we can overcome these particular incidences. And I have 3 things that have helped me. And like I said, this is an ongoing process, and you know that just because it's life, and we all have circumstances or little scenarios that arise in our lives every day. Every day is always an adventure. And I try to look at it like that. There are moments when I'm in like that down mode that I'm like, oh, this is really hard. But I'm appreciative of the contrast so that I can start to, or continually grow to become my true, pure, authentic self and loving myself unconditionally. So the first thing is I put this quote on the first thing to unhooking our desires to dig up our partner's past is, where does it stem from? And a lot of times I think that we don't maybe necessarily recognize that, like sometimes I think there are many times that I believe that we have thought that we've overcome something, and obviously you'll get triggers and stuff if you haven't completely created a new belief system for those things that aren't as active in our vibrational energy. And so anyway, so my example is, the first one is I put a quote on my social media that says, and this comes from Abraham Hicks. She says, never ask your partner a question if you think that the answer that they give you, you're not going to like. Now, this is a very profound quote, because how many times do we get into a relationship with someone new, and if we haven't delved into those old bad behaviors and those old belief systems about a relationship that we haven't come to terms with, and we haven't become our greatest version, and we have complete unconditional love within ourselves, because that's a true sense of recognizing where you are vibrationally and energetically, is if you can not feel vulnerable, not feel that your feelings are unhurtable. It's all in that conditioning way of thinking, you know, conditionally living to where you want someone else to change their behavior so that you will feel better. And so this is an example. Last week, and it sounds juvenile, but I'm sure that you guys maybe recognize this within yourselves, or you've seen this in friends' relationships, or, I mean, it just seems like it's a very commonality type of belief. And I think what it was is I tend to jump to conclusions. So when I see something in particular, like say I see something that Jeffrey did, or maybe he you know, said something that I thought was a little like, oh, that was a little disrespectful if I was thinking of it for myself, you know, like, I kind of can't believe he did that. Like, that was I felt disrespected. And 9 times out of 10, you guys, my issue is that I have brought, and I thought that I was further along, and I am very far along as far as my relationship in the past, is that, don't you think that we tend to, I don't know, but I'm just going to speak for myself, is that I tend to have, even though Jeffrey is my soulmate, and I know that he's my soulmate, we're still always, and even you probably can identify with this, is that we're not always going to have a perfect relationship all the time, every day, 24/7. It's just, that's not normal. That's not real life. That it's important to realize that, to not get hard, to not get down on yourself and be hard on yourself, thinking, everything's supposed to be bliss because I found my soulmate, and we're never supposed to argue, and we're never supposed to get upset with each other or anything like that. And I think what my main thing is that I still have some little bit of triggers, and I know you guys have seen my other videos too, that we're continually trying to work through these processes of the triggers and the old belief systems and the old hurt and things from my old previous relationship. And so it's invariably, you're going to bring some of those remnants of that type of personality to your new relationships. And that's normal, and that's okay. And so if there's anything I want to do is just envelop you with love and help you to realize that it's okay if you do that, and that if you mess up and you feel like, oh, I screwed that up, and maybe you got in a big argument or something like that. And I think that the one thing that I've also recognized too is that that's a very difficult thing for me to not do, is that quote that I put on social media, which was if you think you're not gonna like the question, like, how many sex partners have you had? Oh, you've slept with half of our town, or you friended that girl on social media and you used to have a relationship with her. And so it's very difficult. I mean, tell me if you guys can understand that. Like, that's a very tough thing to get to the point to where you do not give a rat's ass what happened in your partner's past. Maybe they were married. Maybe they had a kid out of wedlock and you didn't know this. Maybe there was some family secrets that took place and you still don't know that about your spouse. And I think the hardest thing is, well, I guess when I'm saying it's hard, then it becomes hard. But anyway, so my whole thing is when when you feel like that you want to ask a question to your partner and you may not like the answer, the worst time in history, the worst time ever, you guys, is to ever ask that when you're not in alignment. Now, I'm not saying you can't sit down like some two civilized human beings when you're in alignment and you're feeling very confident and you have lots of self-love and you're in alignment with source and you don't have any sense of feeling needy, that you can talk about things like that. But you've got to remember to be in alignment before you go taking on one of those kind of situations, because it's never going to solve itself when you do that. Because maybe you're somebody that that's in your vortex. You really want somebody that's very open and very genuine and very forward, with all of their secrets. And so I think that getting to a place then is knowing that when this partner tells you maybe something that you think you might not like, you need to be so stable in your own alignment that nothing that someone says to you, you do not take it personal, and you do not take offense to it. You don't take it as it's something directed towards you. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people, especially people in relationships that have conditioning relationships, which I mean, and I've always spoken about this too, is that if you have a relationship based on, like, that would be like me telling Jeffrey, when he said this particular thing and about this girl or whatever, and I happen to know about the girl's past and I knew about their particular relationship, but I automatically jumped to conclusions. And I have learned that, and I have been able to recognize that I shouldn't speak out of turn, because there's so many times in my past relationships that I would just go from 0 to 100 and like just accuse all over the board. And we know that never gets anywhere. You don't solve the issue. All it does is create more havoc, because what you're doing is activating those parts of yourself you're activating parts of those things that you actually don't want, because it's law of attraction, and universal laws say that if you want something to go away, you stop talking about it. You stop putting your focus on it. You redirect and create new beliefs. Like, you can never get rid of those old things. Like, I can never get rid of me being completely, you know, never needy, never wanting to know about the past. I can't ever get rid of that stuff. So everything that's conditioned in us that we have this belief system about, we're never going to eliminate those beliefs. You can't go in there and, oh, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and I'm going to dig this out, and I'm going to finally, you know, wipe it clean, and I'm going to be finished with that. You have to create a new belief system. And so the other thing, the second thing that I have done, and this has helped me on my journey, is that, you know, instead of being the kind of person that's very accusative and screaming and throwing stuff and being violent, because I mean, and you can guess because I'm a redhead, but it is actually true. That's not a myth, that we're like very, very feisty people. But not only that, is feeling defensive, you know, feeling like, you know, I'm hurtable and I'm very vulnerable and I feel very insecure, because that's the reason that we always feel those feelings and that we feel we want to take defense, is because we don't want anybody to hurt us. And we care about ourselves. Internally, we really do care and love ourselves more than we love anyone else on the face of the planet, you know? And so I think what it's doing is it's our protective mechanism trying to protect us, because we know that we need to and want to be protected. But we have to realize that the only way that we can really, really be protected and safe, where we are unhurtable, is that if we love ourselves completely and 100%. And I think that's one of the largest thing that I have ever learned, is that when I love myself completely, that no matter what someone says to me, it does not affect me on a personal basis. And I've had to work really hard on focusing on creating new belief systems for myself, because everything that you think does not mean that the way that you believe that to be and perceive that to be, everything is subjective. Because just because you might believe a certain thing in a certain way, and you're like, no, the universe has proven to me that this is actually true. And where that might be the case, you guys, we create our reality. So of course you're going to be able to prove that, because most of society lives in that kind of manner. This is bothering the crap out of me. Sorry. I mean, it was up for like 20 minutes. Oh my God. Anyway, so that is the one thing, is that you have to create a new belief system, and you need to be in alignment before you ever go to, you know, want to uncover what is driving you, kind of dissecting that type of, what was your trigger moments in that particular moment when you were having that argument. And so I think it's been really good for me, because what I do is I don't shut down, but I actually, instead of being very crazy and out there and screaming and busting crap and stuff, and by the way, don't drink and use substances when you know that could elevate to an argument or something, because I think I found that in my past that has not been a good thing for me, because it triggers and escalates it even more intensely. So I don't know if, you know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to drink alcohol or not to smoke pot. I'm not going to tell you what not to do, not take pills, whatever. But I'm just saying that when we're in complete alignment, we're able to focus more intently on how we can navigate through these particular circumstances that we may have in our relationship. And to remember is, if we can look at it like Source looks at it, is that he never, I mean, not he, but Source, consciousness, never looks back into the past. The only thing that consciousness and Source is doing is looking at things in the here and now. Right now, right now, right now. You know what I'm saying? And so Source does not look back very far from a couple of hours ago. So if we can get to that point of looking forward, and keeping our focus on the future, that's going to help us. Because don't you believe that I think from my personal experience and my journey, that I have recognized that the things that have caused me the most upset within my soul and my heart and my spirit is when I look back on the past and look back on situations that's like, you know, then that momentum gets going and you can't stop that crap. Once it's 17 seconds into it, like there's a momentum. That's like saying, trying to stop a raging locomotive at 100 miles an hour. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, that's impossible. Don't be surprised when the fucking thing runs you over or the darn thing runs you over, because it's just momentum has gotten going and it just continually, that's universal law. That's laws of attraction. And so try to remember to live in the moment, live in the now. And I think we hear that all the time, but it really is a true statement. Number 4 is to remain productive and to keep your mind from it. So if you feel like you do want to, or there's something that you really do need to uncover about your spouse's past, you know, I mean, there's some of the circumstances, some circumstances do deem for you trying to deconstruct a particular thing that's happened in the past. And I think that when we can get to the point to where we can really dive deep into understanding our own psyche and trying to find that great sense of beautiful self-love within ourselves, that unconditional love for ourselves, because everything else is going to be a cakewalk. And I really believe that. I firmly believe that, because it all starts with ourselves. So many times we want to blame that other person, because it does. Blame feels a lot better than guilt. And blame feels a lot better than blaming myself. You know, I mean, how many times do you hear people, you know, they're a victim or they want to blame someone else, like, well, I wouldn't have done that if you wouldn't have done that, you know. And it's like, if we can just kind of deconstruct where we are stemming from, where are these triggers coming from within ourselves, I mean, 98% of the whole thing is done. But I think so many times we get into those behaviors and those old belief systems, and that kind of just redirects us back to where we were. And so the whole thing is we need to, you know, be productive about getting to the issues at hand. And mostly it's going to always come back to ourselves, and I know that. You know, and I found that another thing that really helps me is I go within myself, and Jeffrey knows this about me, that I like to be alone with myself to work that stuff out. And a lot of times I will either go meditate, or if I'm feeling like I'm too aggravated and too frustrated and too angry to meditate, I know that's probably the best time to do it, but I can't do it. I have not been able to get there yet. So what I do is I usually will take like a little power nap, because you'll get right back into alignment with that. Like, you lose all of that stuff when you sleep, you know. Or I will really write in my journal and just write my feelings out. And that's always helped me to get back into alignment very, very quickly. So whatever you need to do to be productive in deconstructing where those things are stemming from, you know, when you want to drag up the past, or something that bothered you, something that, you know, is causing you stress, the best thing to do is to leave it alone. And that is a very, I mean, when we can get to that point, you guys, and we are doing that all the time, I mean, we are powerful creators, powerful, because most people do not live the way that we do. Law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, universal laws. Most people don't live that way. They look at the typical way that I would have in my past looked at this was like, okay, Jeffrey, I don't like how I'm feeling because you did that. So now you need to stop doing what I want you to do so that I will feel better. And I don't want to have to deal with this again. So you need to change your behavior so that I will feel better. And how many times do we do that? Like, okay, stop doing that. Quit doing this. Don't do that. Don't do that. You know, and it's like you can't stand on your head enough to where you feel like you're a puppet. You know, and that doesn't work. That stuff does not work, because it really comes back to us. It's not about our partner. It's not about our kids. It's not about our parents. It's not about anybody else. It's about us. And so I'm very, very particular when I share this on my channel, because it is a very intimate thing for me because I'm sharing with you guys like my deepest things, and it's kind of, I mean, there's a little bit, it's kind of embarrassing sometimes because I'm like, oh my God, I mean, how else can I talk about this stuff? Is like, we have to get to this place to where, you know, I love me regardless, and I know I'm going to have judgmental people say things, you know, I mean, I get it all the time, and that's cool, you know. I mean, obviously, I think you're not coming to my channel when you're in alignment if you want to just bark at me and be unkind to me. But you know what? That's cool. You have a freedom and a right to do that, and so I'm going to love you regardless. But sometimes, you know, it just does, it kind of, you know, puts a little twist in there, and it's like a tinge, like, oh, I'm trying to help people, or I'm trying to help myself too. I mean, it is kind of a selfish thing that I'm doing this, is because originally that's why I started doing the channel, is to try to help me to be my best version of myself. And so I feel like if I'm dealing with these kind of issues, these ongoing little things in my life, even though I'm married to my soulmate, I'm sure that you guys are dealing with this stuff too. I can only, I mean, right? But anyway, and so I hope these were helpful to you. And so let's remember, so, you know, try to not activate things. I'm going to go back over the 4 things, okay? Make sure that you're in alignment if you're going to want to dig up the past, because most likely you're not going to like the answer that they give you, because if you want them to be honest and they tell you the truth, then you can't react to that. I mean, you have to be in alignment so that you can handle that, and you're untouchable as far as your feelings being hurt or being offended or getting, you know, feeling insecure. Because that's the other thing too, is, you know, that when you are feeling needy at any point when you're going through this with your conversations with your partner or your soulmate, is that if you feel in a needy state, like, I need you to pay me attention, or I need you to tell me this to make me feel better, or I need you to stop doing that so that I'll feel better. If you know that you feel in a needy situation, if you feel needy in that particular moment, don't go, you are not in alignment. I mean, that's a very good, clear indication that you are not in alignment if you feel needy. Because you know what? Powerful creators, people that love themselves unconditionally, people that are in complete alignment with their souls, are not needy. We're so confident, nobody can hurt us. You're untouchable. And so you know that that's one of the things. So if you're needy, do not try to solve anything when you're in that needy position. The other one is take productive inventory of how you want to kind of deal with that. You know, I go within myself, I take a nap, I try to maybe meditate sometimes, go on a jog. I'm very much an advocate of that, because it kind of gets my energy, my, you know, it's very strenuous and it helps me. Write it down, talk it out within yourselves, because it's really not about anybody else. The other thing is, remember that source never looks back. We need to live in the moment now. And remember too, this is the other thing, is that when you want to forget about something, you want to focus your attention on the future. Because if you try to say, oh, I need to get to the bottom of this, or I need to work through this, all you're doing is activating something that you really don't want to activate. So you have to create a new belief system. You have to start thinking about different things and slowly move yourself into that momentum of creating a new belief system. Because just because you think the way that you've always thought, that's all a belief is thinking the same thing over and over for an extended amount of time. You can recreate new beliefs, and it's very easy to do. You just have to focus on it, and you have to work at it. And so work at doing that, not trying to keep reliving the past. I hope this helped you. I hope this served you. And if you have any questions, if you guys would love the PDF, if you guys would like the PDF form of the focus wheel, because I do a lot of focus wheels, and that really helps me a lot. And I've talked about the focus wheel. It's Abraham Hicks focus wheel that I painted and created. And if you would like the PDF of that so that you can make as many copies as you want, I go into descriptive detail based on Abraham Hicks teachings about how to use a focus wheel, because it really, really does help you to like weed out those things that you may not recognize until you put it on paper what you're doing. Because so many times we are caught within ourselves. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't realize what you're doing because you've been thinking things for so long, so you don't understand where you're wobbly at. And so a focus wheel really helps you to get it on paper, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see I'm very wobbly there. So I need to try to, and so we can generally go in that aspect of working through those things. So if you would ever want the PDF, you're more than welcome to email me and I can send it to you. And my email is Raquel, R-A-Q-U-E-L, at RaquelCarter.com. Raquel at RaquelCarter.com. And if you want, I will send that PDF to you, and then you can print it off as many times as you want. All right, I hope this served you. As always, I'm yours until my next swim. Ciao!